I want to start off. I want to thank Kirsten and Danielle for helping with everything in the last month. Also, Daniel from the CMIS staff. And I do want to give a huge shout out with loss of staff at the city. I want to give a huge shout out to Eric Finch. He's really being a director of the IT for a 2,000 person organization at the city. I believe he's probably been spending at least 18 hours a day with the CHHS department. So I appreciate his work for this that has happened over the last month. I also want to thank the executive committee who has met 5 times since we met last, tracking a lot of different stuff. So just thank you, Eric, and thank you to the executive committee. And thank you to Dale for attending so many different meetings and stepping up. And Kirsten, if I didn't say thank you properly to you, I also just really appreciate it. There's been a lot of people having to step up and do roles that they normally wouldn't do in order to keep our NOFA moving forward, and it's appreciated by all of us. With that, I'm going to move on to the consent agenda. I sent out the July and September meetings minutes. They're in your inbox. If you haven't had a chance to look at them, let's just say we give everybody 2 minutes or a minute to maybe take a quick look at those if you didn't get a chance to before the meeting. And then somebody, if they could, Mark, I'm asking you to make a motion to approve them once you're comfortable.
Move to approve.
Has anybody read them that's comfortable making a second?
Breeze, second to approve.
All right, I'm going to sit here. Due to the fact that I can't see everybody on my screen, I wish we were all in the same room together. Any discussion on the minutes? Pending, nobody's said anything, and we have a first and a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? I appreciate everybody. The minutes have been approved. We're now going to move on. The next hour is going to be spent on the NOFA, our renewals, scoring. I sent out 2, and Eric, I'm going to kind of let you frame this conversation because I think we might go back to the first scoring sheet.
As soon as I find my mute button. Good afternoon all, and again, thank you for the time, and thank you for, I think that, the comments that kind of flowed in today. Again, I mean, I think one of the challenges for us really, as being, newer to the process is just trying to do that QA. And so as you've submitted kind of comments and questions, we interactively take those on board and continue to work and get answers for those. So I think that the 2 products that got sent, there was one original one and then one later one, and the main really difference between the 2 was potentially the recommendations in the bottom box, where at least the consensus from the RFP and eval committee was to potentially use any surplus dollars in support of coordinate entry and CMIS. And just I see a hand. Let me finish the description there before I pass it off to you, Bridget, for the question. Is in checking with HUD, there's 2 parts of this. One is we didn't have the original number in for that WA 0329 entry. Has been in some of the previous sheets for previous years, that still needs to potentially be added. The second part is that's kind of like a calculated number, and ultimately, if you're going to try to request an expansion of that program line for HMIS, then that usually also includes some geography expansion as well. It's not just trying to, add money to that to do the same, the same body of work, so to speak. So this goes down, I think, several paths. But one thing I wanted to kind of try to at least allude to, from the RFP and eval committee, the city has already kind of looked at how we need to reinforce the CMIS HMIS effort. The 3 positions were there. We've seen funding capacity within the current administrative fee structure to add a 4th position. That 4th position is in the budget to start, or at least in the draft budget. It's not been approved yet by council, but we have no negative feedback at this point, either from the council or administration, to approve that position, because it would be fully grant funded starting in January of this year. So that would increase our staff depth on CMIS to 4 positions. So there is already a solution path in place to increase, the focus on that I just wanted to make sure that you were all briefed on. And then we owe you still the final, excuse me, number solution as it relates to if there needs to be a number entry in that HMIS line 0, WA 0329 that we do not have represented yet today. It was not in at least the draft or the original starting point that we had from departing staff, but we do see in prior years that there is a number there, as many of you have. So the reality of it is, with the plug-in of that number, there still might be a surplus, but it might be much less than what might be represented today. I guess that's kind of piece 1, and then the piece 2 is that we're still saying, obviously, a unique difference here in terms of that all the projects I think that are requested either as new or renewal would fit within the ARD plus the COC bonus amount, which means that if there is even a number plugged in for HMIS, as long as it does not exceed that 198,000 of surplus, then there still might be some level of surplus that could be considered. So I guess that's what we know today. I will go quiet there for both Bridget's question and then Katie, if I've missed anything in terms of any kind of current event that you've had over the past couple hours in terms of research on that HMS line. I'm happy for that input too.
I don't have any input yet, so thank you.
Okay, Bridget.
I guess, Eric, my concern was, and so it might change a little bit now, but you said the 198,000 may be covering HMIS. There's no money in this for HMIS. My initial concern when I saw the second email that was sent out about having that surplus go to, well, CMIS, HMIS, whatever, and coordinate entry, I look back on the grants that I have with HUD, and I went back to 2013, and I'm flat funded since 2013. We know that's not realistic. There was a suggestion, I think, on the first email about going for COLAs, and I would put out that we can't maintain capacity when we are flat funded and using 2013 dollars.
Yeah, I absolutely agree and hear what you're saying, Bridget. And I think, and part of this again is a learning piece for me personally. But what I would suggest through the conversations I've had with many of you as well as with HUD is the calculation of that annual renewal demand number by HUD is meant to be able to be that kind of COLA type increase. When you divide the ARD amount that they list by the current renewal amounts or the past year's renewal amounts, it's exactly 7%, right? So I think that the expectation I think from HUD is that ultimately asking like as a renewal in those numbers for that additional amount is expected, to put it that way. So I agree that COLA would be potentially one of those items, and I think there's a process in place that maybe we've just underutilized in the past. That said, where we took the numbers off for the requested by project was just that, the requested by project. We could potentially put again that plus the COLA amount in there. We just didn't feel right about changing the numbers off of a proposal without talking to someone first.
Okay, and really, we're told what we can write a budget for. So that's probably why that's what we wrote the budgets for, was because we were told that's what you write your budget for.
Okay, so yes, so the the left hand and the right hand, and so I think that what I would suggest then is as if we are at that place once we kind of lock in that HMIS number, that if we have a surplus, then that surplus, I think the recommendation, at least both, and for the few of you that are also on the RFP and eval subcommittee, please, this is more your domain than I, but certainly the other option that was discussed is that we spread that in some way as a COLA for those projects.
Thank you.
So go ahead, Ben, if you had, and you're muted, Ben. You're muted, Ben.
Sorry about that. 2 years later, I should know. So what I'm hearing you say is that we have 198,000 excess, but we don't know if that includes or doesn't include the HMIS number. If we don't need to add that 180 line in that we normally have for HMIS, and we do have 198, that we could collectively make a decision to use that for COLAs for all the agencies. But if we have to plug in a 180, we're only going to have 18,000 excess.
That's correct, and certainly I think the reason for that, if you will, is that you have two new projects that are almost again at or exceeding necessarily that COC bonus amount. So in other words, it would be like a question of do you give COLAs or do you fund that second project, quote unquote?
The second new project, because there was bonus money for DV, and then there was bonus dollars that's not covering both projects. Okay.
Yeah. So yes. So there is this kind of 203,000, and you want me to? How about if it might be easier to share so we're all looking at least at the same thing.
And while you're getting ready to share, Katie, I didn't know you were on. So I also want to thank Katie, Howard, and Deanna Davis, who jumped on with zero notice with full schedules already to help as consultants on the NOFA. So Katie, I just really appreciate you guys jumping on board as well.
Thanks, Ben.
Okay, so can everyone see that spreadsheet? Do I need to make it larger?
You could go a little larger.
That's better.
Okay, so the yes, so this 198,000 would, if you took the numbers of the new projects as well as the renewals at their baseline cost, and so just as Bridget mentioned, that I'm sensitive to the fact that does not include increases, then you'd have this $198,000 in surplus until we figure out exactly what's supposed to be in that HMS line, because that's still, I think, the missing hole. My guess right now, just based on the HUD conversations as well as at least the research to date, is that 188,000 or whatever that number is, that has been in the prior version of or the prior year for HMIS probably is supposed to be in here, and we just missed adding it. Which would mean you have a very narrow difference, and so it, as stated, the cost of the two new projects, right? You're paying for one out of the bonus piece. The other would either be paid vice doing the COLA adjustments, or you would potentially propose some other different method. And so to be honest, we have not been able to give, I think, all this final information to the RFP and eval, committee for them to kind of do justice to helping bake this prior to this session fully, right? We've been working it iteratively for the past kind of 5 days.
I got it. The other question I have, and this does kind of affect this part of the conversation because this seems like this is the crux of it, because if we're going to try to approve something today, we've got to come to some answers. But my other question, and this is for the RFP committee, is we were not able to last year spend down all the rapid rehousing dollars. And we know that there's still a super tight market in apartments with no vacancies. And so was there a discussion in the RFP committee on rapid rehousing and that money moving forward at the same levels when we didn't spend 500,000 this year and we haven't seen any changes on the ground? And I know that opens a can of worms, but I think it's a legitimate question because we don't want to find ourselves next June turning back rapid rehousing dollars because there was no housing inventory.
And you know, and again, I know just you know, as I guess the staff facilitator, there was that discussion in many cases, and a recommendation actually, you know, as was noted in this first version of the spreadsheet, that, you know, to consider reallocating the funds from underspent rapid rehousing. Now, separately, in my call with Aaron Lewis from HUD today, you know, asking and walking through some of these, you know, ongoing questions that we've been working on and solving, you know, he said it was in his view, you know, from what he understands, you know, from the HUD perspective, it's a very positive thing because they note the fact that we turned, you know, dollars back, you know, last year, and that if we still see the same thing for this year, then certainly us, you know, looking at how we might, you know, move those dollars around in terms of, you know, kind of reinforcing success, right? You know, would be seen as a positive thing from HUD. So yeah, so I think, you know, and again, we owe, and I hate to say this. I mean, we've been, you know, really, you know, pushing through and you know, burning the midnight oil, so to speak. But you know, I think that, you know, I think the safest piece for, I think, you to make, I think cascading level of decisions on, or at least initial decisions, you know, pending our confirmation from, you know, from HUD and from other resources here, would be to expect that surplus is largely, you know, taken by, you know, the CMIS funding line that probably needs to be there. I think that's just a miss on our part in terms of getting that number in there.
Eric, I found that number if you want to add it in.
Sure.
So this would be including the admin that goes with it. It would be 177,489. And I gave you in the chat documentation of where I found that if you need to check my work.
Yeah, no, I'm obviously in presentation mode, so it's hard
Totally.
for me to see chat. So let me, if you folks don't mind, I'm doing this interactively. So again, you know, as these numbers update, you can see that this would leave you with a $20,785 surplus. So not a lot to spread if you were going to spread as COLAs, or you could, as has been, you know, discussed, fund something less, whether that be the rapid rehousing projects or something else, and then take any of that additional surplus and spread it as COLAs to the projects.
Eric and Ben, I just want to go through this because there's new members of the board. I think it's important. You know, the HMIS number, yeah, historically has been there. The intervention, it might say permanent supportive housing, but some of them support social support services, and others support leasing dollars or rental assistance for units out in the community. And that's not really detailed out here as an intervention. So I just, you know, because historically HUD back, you know, in the 07 to 2010 era, we as a community were really being pushed to build up our inventory or beds or units of how many units we had in inventory for the chronically homeless. And then and that's how some of these programs came about. And then later on, when we built the big buildings around Catholic Charities, VOA, they went after support services dollars that they used to support the staffing to keep the program going. So I just wanted to make sure that's clear with people versus like the rapid rehousing. Ben has talked about that. Transitional housing for the pregnant and parenting youth. Though that's a smaller scale operation compared to, the 50 unit buildings, families also. But that PSH doesn't mean they're units out there. There might be, some of them are units being paid for master leases, but others that is the support services. So, yeah. I just wanted to make sure everybody, sort of knew that perspective.
Thank you.
Bill.
I think the listing for us, I think, just kind of came from the application, shell that was filed by that, and that's how that column was filled in. So we did not add the depth there that you mentioned.
I just want to ask a question. I recall that historically we also had a line item that I think was called planning. I remember when we did some shifting, Debbie did a presentation several months ago, and that was one of the categories that was listed in that shifting that the city was underspent on. And I don't see that reflected here. And I don't know if that should be, if I'm missing something, maybe someone who has a more historical perspective could.
My belief on those dollars, Shannon, those were above and beyond our allocation, because we had that special designation as one of a few only cities that had that designation. So those were excess dollars.
Yeah. So and I'll add, but realize this is the 3-month quick study course for me. But as a UFA, right, and the COC basically takes the overall dollar amount and allocates the projects, right, that in the ranking order of those projects and how they want to spend that money, and the overall sense of the city's relationship back to HUD, right, when the total grant amount, right, we're not necessarily prioritizing the projects, but we're also then adding that administrative fee piece of it on top of that. That's my understanding. So it would be separate from these dollars. But to your point, it's also been underutilized. I mean, we've not gotten I think close to potentially probably the 50 or 60% level of spending those administrative costs, which is why we can grow like the CMIS position as an example. But I've noted it, so we'll validate, because I don't trust anything anymore. I ask the questions to make sure.
So pending validation, we're plugging in the 177, and then the question becomes, do we give, to me, this is the crux of the question, is do we accept both new projects, and so then you'd accept all these projects, or do you only accept the highest scoring new project and then allocate the rest to COLA increases for the current renewals? And that seems to be the question that we could, if we get there, we could take a vote today pending confirmation of those items.
How much of a COLA are we talking about?
Well, if again, I think the HUD factored rate, as best I've been able to determine, was kind of 7%. That's what they put in as a COLA. And that's what adds up to the difference between current dollars and that 4,064,000 ARD number that they calculate.
So if we took the highest scoring new project and did COLAs, would that then push the other project, the next new project, to the underneath the line?
Yep.
It would.
I guess
And that's
I
why,
don't,
sorry, go
I
ahead.
don't think we've been adequately funding our existing partners for a long time. So
And certainly, like I said, in the renewal packages, they asked for the same amount as last year. And again, if you know, the collective wisdom is that's what they've been, you know, coached to ask for, right? You know, then certainly that is a fact. The only part I would want to add to that conversation as well as Ben's, just to make sure that all these notes are getting out to everybody, is, you know, if you want to selectively look at, you know, decreasing funding in certain areas, like the rapid rehousing has been an example mentioned, then that would be another way that you can reconstitute a pool of dollars that gets spread for COLA or to fund that second project. The RFP and eval committee was very clear that they thought the merits of both new projects warranted them being, you know, again, you know, at that top of the list. And even if you rank score it based on the scores to date, you know, the second new project, the VOA one, you know, would score number 3. So it still would be one of your renewal projects, you know, towards the bottom, if you followed the scoring rubric.
I'm sorry, because I've just been so busy lately that I may have missed this, but how much is unspent in rapid rehousing?
Yeah, you know, and Katie, I know we've researched some of that. I'm not sure if we've gotten to the point of actually building a total of numbers.
I don't know that it will be possible for me to give a number. I can start looking at some files and give some answers. So let me work on that.
And Daniel, would from CMIS, would we have, or the performance reports we've done, would we have maybe anything we could look at there?
In terms of a financial accounting of that amount?
Yeah. Or would that be more on like Skylar's side?
Yeah, that would be more on Skylar's side. I know, of course, some of the providers that were involved in that, they would know the numbers, I think, for their organization, but collectively, I don't have that number, and the CMIS can't pull that out this time.
Okay, thank you, Daniel.
The last time we spoke about it as a board, it was significant. It wasn't like, oh, $40,000. It was hundreds.
So you know, I think you know, again, and I'm trying to help in both in the interest of time as well as understanding we're not, you know, able to give you yet all the full information. But you know, I think that you know, helping confirm, I think, the ranking piece, you know, and then developing, I think, a couple of options, because I think we can, given a little bit of time, staff, and come back with, you know, what those dollar levels are kind of by project. I do know that at least in the quick review we did, I mean, I think we built a list of, you know, I think the projects that seem to have funds available, but I think that's as deep as we got, Katie, and then, you know, but there was a trend that we saw in the rapid rehousing for that. I think a couple of the PSHs too, but I think the PSH was mainly because of finding suitable places, right?
So a couple of things. One is, I think both new projects are good. I think doing cost of living, if we can do that, I think we should. We may need to weigh the 7% against what's realistic, but I also think we should pull back some dollars from rapid rehousing, and partly because of the housing market and the difficulty that I think will continue in 2022, but also because I have emergency housing vouchers that we didn't have before. And so potentially I could help those same households, emergency housing vouchers instead of rapid rehousing dollars. Now, Shannon, you might have a comment about that, but that's what was running through my head.
Yeah, so I mean, and just in terms of, so I can't give you an amount off the top of my head, but we are one of the providers that did give back some funding, and we actually only put in this renewal for one of our rapid rehousing grants. The other one was I think went to the Y. But you know, I will just say from in this current cycle, it's looking much different for us, and we're having much more success. I know that when we originally had met with Debbie, she had said it would be monitored closely, by the city, and we have been meeting our projected expenses every month. So we're finding it's in a different, we're in a little bit different situation now. But that's, I can only speak for us. So I not the system as a whole.
Well, I think the hole we saw last year was you were part of that turnback. So if things are changing, then that should change the conversation on not, because it's a very successful intervention. The data is really good that if you get somebody rapidly rehoused, they're not entering our system, and they're 2 years later, the data that I've seen shows that it's a very good intervention. So that's good news.
Yeah.
So,
Well, sorry, go ahead, Ben. Sorry.
no, I don't know if that changes your mind at all, Pam.
Pam, can I also speak to that a little bit? Because we do lots of vouchers. I think about a lot of the barrier removal we're doing before they're landing with you too. And my concern is if people are going straight to vouchers, sometimes they're not quite voucher ready. And we're still struggling with getting all the documents that sometimes are needed for the Section 8 vouchers with our current rapid rehousing participants. All the birth certificates for kids and stuff like that, Social Security cards, because there's still such a delay with COVID at getting documents. So while I love the availability of vouchers, I still think it's, especially for the DV population, bridging them with rapid rehousing to do some barrier removal before they get their voucher, I think for our population has better successes.
Well, and we can actually then use the emergency housing vouchers to continue to house the rapidly rehoused. Once you've got all the stuff together, we can transition them. So maybe it's a good thing to leave it.
But again, we have the YWCA, we're sitting on a lot of rapid rehousing dollars this year. And it's my barrier right now is staffing levels too, finding appropriate housing advocates to process dollars, which hopefully will be a problem that I'm solving right now, but still, I see both sides.
I think we're all having that problem.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Is on the list here, the bottom single listed item, rapid rehousing, and then there's rapid rehousing, the fourth up from that. That's two separate projects?
It is. Did you hear me, Dale?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It looks like was that the lowest, the bottom one?
Yeah.
Lowest flooring.
The 148, yeah. Because that one might potentially be if we chose to keep new projects, that might be bumped down and out. That could be one method, potentially.
But I wonder if process-wise, I'll let somebody from the RFP committee, but it seems like we're asking a little different questions today here than was asked of the RFP committee. And if I were on the RFP committee and spent hours and hours with Eric and my friends scoring these and coming up with a plan to bring to the board, but now we have a little bit different information, do I also feel like my time wasn't valued? And maybe we accept the scoring today, but maybe the RFP committee needs to meet one more time and let them have the recommendation forward to an email vote to the board on the final acceptance. Because I think we're asking a little bit different question because we have a little bit more information on that HMIS piece.
Yeah.
And I don't want to devalue all of the time and effort that committee of hardworking individuals has spent either.
This is Ariel. I can't really say anything because I'm looking at the Excel sheet. So I sat on the RFP committee, And I'm not sure, I mean, I don't know how the other folks feel, but I will say that in my mind, it's the same question, which is, you know, should we be reallocating or allocating funds from underspent rapid projects and put that towards permanent supportive housing, which for the bonus projects, they are pre-identified units, right? So that's not an issue. Now, what I will say is that in all transparency, from my perspective, families have always had more availability in terms of housing stock. That's not been unusual during the course of my time working in the single system. And as Ben mentioned early on in this conversation, there is a severe lack of housing stock for singles. And so, you know, in my mind, it does make sense to support permanent supportive housing for the singles population because we're often serving chronic folks in rapid. So, but to Jen's point, as she mentioned, that case management component is really critical in terms of gathering documentation too. So that's all I got. Thank you.
So it still seems like we're talking about three different options, and I want board members to keep speaking up with your opinions, but it seems like the three different options are we can fund everything as is on this sheet, including the 2 new projects, with no COLAs. You can give COLAs, but you either have to, you can give COLAs and eliminate one of the 2 new projects, or you can give COLAs and eliminate, and we're only really talking about one of the lowest scoring rapid rehousing. So you can either fund it all, or you eliminate, or you give COLAs and eliminate either one of the 2 new projects or the lowest scoring, which is a rapid rehousing. And if I'm wrong, let me know, but it seems like those are the 3 options on the table. And I do want to hear from more people.
So based on the scoring, I would say the latter. You would take the 2 new projects, do the COLA. I think the projects need a COLA. They haven't had one since 2013. That's a long, long time to try to keep up. I mean, just look at how much our staff costs have gone up this last year. I'm not sure. One person on the board. I'm just voicing my opinion.
Well, and I'll echo, I'm not sure the best solution, but given that there hasn't been a COLA since 2013, and the fact that we're seeing this year especially significant increases in costs that are not likely to slow down, I think there might have been years where, okay, you could survive without a COLA, you know, and working at Eastern, I haven't had one for a couple of years. So, you know, I get that, but at the same time, it's getting harder. And so for these projects, I think it would be unwise to not figure out a way to put the COLA in there this go around, just because of what the near future looks like.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Pam. I see Michelle agreeing. Are there any other board member comments? Andre?
Considering that 2013 was the last year something like that was done, I agree. I hear also the difficulty of retaining staff, and just the sector is potentially struggling through all of during pandemic, but also just what's the future. It is a difficult choice, but it also needs to happen.
And I'm sorry when I pick on individuals, Andre. That wasn't, I just think you're a really thoughtful guy and wanted to hear from you. Is there anybody else, or is we kind of know there's 3 choices. Somebody could, I've only heard voices on the one choice. So somebody could make a motion to accept the rankings, add COLAs in, and eliminate the lowest score project. And
Well,
then
then we're not actually eliminating it. It just falls below the line, correct?
Yeah,
So
we-
it
we
may or
can't-
may not get funded.
Right. It falls below the line.
Can I ask a quick clarifying question?
You bet, Brian.
So there's two new projects that aren't the lowest scoring. For those lowest scoring projects, I'm assuming the new projects don't have any. I guess what I'm trying to get at is does this endanger anyone from losing their job if a particular project isn't funded versus a newer project? And I know that's not always the only metric, but something to consider. We've got these two new projects. Is it possible to keep some lower scoring projects and really get them better, as opposed to potentially someone losing their jobs, starting new projects, having to do new things? And I genuinely don't know the intricacies of that.
I think we're not creating new units, so the units exist. I don't know about the services offered in those units. So I guess I don't know the answer, and I don't even know what on the lowest scoring, which is 0119, who that is or what that project is. And so
That
I don't
is
know what-
that is the SNAP Small Cities Rapid Rehousing for Single Adults. Now, and I just want to ask a question, Ben, since you brought this up earlier. I mean, you know, we can, and like I said, we've not done it yet, and so I respect the difference, but we can obviously look through the, you know, RRH or the other projects in terms of where they stand in terms of those funding pieces and ask some of those questions, because obviously I guess the fourth option would be you take some money from several buckets versus just one and fund a certain COLA through that. So that would be certainly, I guess, the option 4.
But historically, that's not the way that this ranking has worked.
That's
Yeah,
correct.
one question I have is often when there's an opportunity for new projects and you score them and you put them forth, they don't always get awarded. And I don't know if that was just with the DV bonus in previous years or if this is a different deal. Because they have to score, not just, we ranked them, but they have to score against other projects across the country, if I understand it correctly. And they may or may not get funded.
Correct. And as I understand, at least from my direct conversation with HUD, just to you know, ask some of these same questions, they will go through and do their own assessment. They have their own rubric that they apply. And, you know, I think especially, you know, so tier 1 is things that are within the ARD plus COC bonus dollars. Tier 2 is anything that falls below that, you know, that below the line that we've talked about. Now, certainly if it's below the line and it's a weaker on a score as they go through their rubric, then it probably is a much less likely to get funded. If it scores very high, even if it's below the line, it could get funded. Also likewise, if we have several underperforming projects, you know, through their rubric, even if they're above the line, I guess conceivably, this is an annual award. Those could be either withdrawn or funded at a lesser level. So all those outcomes could be, but I think that as I understand it from the HUD rep, generally speaking, the renewals are, you know, I mean, I don't want to say that they're automatic, but unless we're really coming back and saying we want to do something different with them, and there's a huge problem where it's been canceled, you know, then there's usually a HUD intent to try to ensure that funding continues for those programs.
Eric, I have a clarifying question. Are those new units, the new PSHs, are they just support services or are any of those units?
I believe it's a mix. So some of them have supportive units. Both of them have rent assistance or unit parts of it. And Katie or anyone else on the RFP and eval subcommittee that can help me out here. I believe we asked the question in terms of how many were like new units versus units that already exist in the system that would be kind of, repurposed, reused, and it's a mixture of both. I believe the VOA was a little bit more focused on the new unit piece, if memory serves, and the Catholic Charities one was a mix of both new as well as repurposed. And that's from my notes, folks, not from deep experience.
Keep in mind that some of the new PSH units that came online didn't have any funding for services, and Hope House is a good example of that. So my guess is, and I haven't seen it, but my guess is that one of those requests is to provide support services for Hope House because they built the units but didn't have the money to provide the services for the whole thing.
That's correct, Pam, and that's one of the reasons why their like cost per unit was higher necessarily than the other new proposal. Both of them were very different proposals, and they're available for people if they would want to review.
Andre has a good question in the chat. On the bottom 4 proposals on the scoring, there's a little disparity between what the committee and the staff scored those, where they seem to be almost flipped a little.
I can give context. This is Katie. Andre, the committee scores performance metrics and the staff scores housing first assessment metrics. So they're totally different parts of the proposals that are being scored.
Thank you, Katie. Okay.
So Ben, would you like me to take a leap?
Take a leap and make a motion because we got 10 minutes left on this agenda item, and today I'm cutting it off whether we're there or not.
So I would move that we keep the 2 new projects where they're at, keep the integrity of the RFP committee's scoring, and grant a COLA to the existing projects, and whatever falls below the line falls below the line. That's my motion.
Do I hear a second?
Angela, and I second.
Motion. Member RFP committee.
Thank you, Jan. I appreciate it. More discussion. This is before the vote. This is.
Ben, how do you want us to recuse our votes if we are in conflict?
I'll ask.
In the chat?
No, I'll ask for an abstention as part of the vote. I'm going to just hold it for a few more seconds because I just want to make sure that we're all getting the chance.
Repeat the motion, please.
So the motion is to respect the scoring and ranking of the RFP committee the way it is, add in the HMIS cost, which is on there now, plus a COLA for existing grantees, and then wherever the line falls, the line falls. So we leave it the way it is, but we add a COLA and then redo the line.
Thank you, Pam.
I have a first and a second. Now I'm asking, let's just start with abstentions. I can't see everybody, so maybe Jennifer, is Jennifer the only abstention?
There's more.
Do you want me to stop sharing, Ben?
Yes, please. Well, and I'm not going to be able to see everybody anyway, but I want to make sure Danielle gets this on who the abstentions are.
So Danielle, this is Angela Chapman, and I have to abstain.
Okay, so unless I'm screwing this up totally, I got 2 abstentions from official board members, right? Okay. All in favor, say aye.
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 And all noes. Hold. Okay. Thank you, everybody. I really appreciate that. I appreciate the RFP committee immensely. Eric, talk about jumping in with both feet and leading a discussion on something that literally 5 weeks ago you were not aware of the NOFA. So awesome job, Eric. Just amazing, a great leadership, and really thankful.
Well, thank you all for the support and the answering questions and being patient, because we certainly appreciated the spirit of this to help us provide at least the best information we could.
Okay, let's move on to the next, and we are ahead of schedule. This is an amazing thing that has never happened since I've been in charge. And I think Arian was going to get on around 4. So let's start. Eric, do you want to give I'm really sorry to do this, but maybe I'll go over coordinated assessment and the way out shelter first. How's that? Give you a little bit of a break before we get into the winter plan. So this is kind of a 2-part, and I just want to talk about it, and I don't think it's actually going to take 20 minutes. But a letter was sent on September 16th from Catholic Charities, Volunteers of America, Transitions, and one other agency that runs PSH, Permanent Supportive Housing Units. Over the way coordinated assessment is working now, what we're doing is taking the most acute cases and putting them in the PSH units and in the buildings. And our demographic has changed such that we're seeing a lot younger population, so in their late 30s, versus when the population had previously been homeless longer and chronically homeless. There are also a majority with co-occurring illnesses, mental health, and a majority with substance abuse issues as well. And by putting them all together, and the acuity is hurting the ability of our providers in order to provide proper services. And what the other observation that's been made in PSH units, and with some documentation in Tacoma with the SP-DAT, is that it doesn't take into account BIPOC community members as well. And we know from how coordinated assessment is working and who's coming out on scoring that the population that's being housed and sent forward to PSH units is less representative than the numbers that we know from the PIT count on BIPOC community members. So those two concerns were brought to the city and to the COC leadership. I had a meeting with CMIS and Eric and other staff members at the time. And then we had another meeting last week with the providers, members of coordinated assessment on both the family and single side, and with the city and COC board executive committee members. A proposal will be brought forward to the families subcommittee and the single subcommittee, and I'm hoping to get those out in the next day, and ask for a special meeting of those subcommittees so that we're not crashing on the really good case management work that's being done in those subcommittees, but to bring those proposals forward and to change the scoring a bit in order to address those issues. So I wanted to give a heads up on that, and then just see if there's any questions or concerns, but then that will go from the subcommittees, hopefully with a recommendation, whether it's exact or however they feel best to move this forward, to the exec, and then be brought to the board next month. And if I did not summarize something correctly or misspoke, feel free to correct me on that one.
Ben, I haven't had a chance to convene the racial equity work group yet. And so I'm planning on doing that in the next few weeks. I'm wondering if we can get the proposal just as something to talk about and weigh in on, not necessarily recreate or knowing that it's not going to be a fully, fleshed out subcommittee or group in the next few weeks, but there'll be some representation to weigh in and at least kind of look at any potential problems or pitfalls from that lens.
Absolutely.
Okay.
That's a great idea, Brian, and something you could convene them around for a meeting. That's awesome. Thank you. Anybody else? Anybody that was there? Did I miss anything on that portion of it?
Nope, I think you did a great job.
I don't know about that, Pam, but we got through it. A year ago, I didn't know what SPDAT means, but now I do. I understand it. Okay, that then led into a conversation, and this conversation has been, it really is relates to coordinated assessment and the Way Out Shelter. And the Way Out Shelter is, I think, ribbon cutting on November 1st, start being open on November 6th. And one of the concerns and one of the conversations was, how does coordinated assessment really combine in with the Way Out Shelter? So the group had a pretty good conversation, and I'm not going to summarize this one, but really the way it's looking is it's a second step from a regular overnight by night shelter where they're going to have day activities, but then they're also the Salvation Army is going to be set up and accept referrals from other day by night shelters. And they're also going to accept referrals through outreach. And then they discussed, in order to combine and make sure they were kind of following the same rules as us, that they would accept referrals from coordinated assessment. But after the discussion, the group kind of came to a consensus that really that's not the way coordinated assessment works, is into that type of a facility, and that they don't receive any HUD funding at all for this. So the consensus of the meeting was essentially that the Way Out Shelter doesn't need to use coordinated assessment, and that would just confuse things because it's not set up for this type of activity to be coordinated assessed into. Pam, is that an accurate reflection of our conversation as well?
Yes, and I think part of what the discussion was that the Way Out Shelter is not a low barrier or no barrier shelter. And so people coming from coordinated assessment, the whole idea behind coordinated assessment is the housing first principle, and that the Way Out Shelter doesn't really follow that principle. And so, putting people through an assessment to get them in there creates more capacity issues for coordinated assessment. And so it doesn't make any sense to me when they could just take referrals from existing shelter of people who are ready to go.
I missed the low barrier part in my explanation. Thank you, Pam. Is there any questions about that?
Shannon, you were on that call as well, weren't you?
I was. I think we were a little uncertain if the funding was going to require that. And I didn't get the sense, I didn't think that was clear. I think based on how they were describing the utilization of how they were going to do coordinated entry, I think that we were indicating that as far as we were concerned, that didn't sound like how we usually utilize, coordinated entry. So I don't know if there are folks on this call that weren't a part of that might have more insight into terms of like their contract and the requirement and those sorts of things. But as far as we were concerned, what was being described did not sound how we utilize coordinated entry currently.
Well, and what I took from that was, because Arian probably could talk to this, she was, part of that meeting, was that, other funders actually have different data points that they're collecting. and how, the COC, even, can we collaborate, with them to see exactly if we're not going to have them individuals go through coordinated assessment, yet these individuals are representative of being homeless within our community. How do we would like to know those numbers. How do we get those numbers somehow for future planning, and really promoting that across sectors. And I don't know if that's possible, but that's really, because I think they were funded from the HaHa dollars is what we learned.
Ben?
Yes.
The Spokane County is using homeless housing dollars to fund the maintenance and operation. Our expectation was, based on the City of Spokane's application to us back in 2019, that coordinated entry was a component of the way out shelter, and it is a contract term. And at that point, in time, it was really clear that we were looking at low barrier. Now, I think where we're missing the point here is that maybe our plan needs to incorporate medium barriers if we're going to serve that population, but yet go through the coordinated entry process. So now speaking for the county, it is our assumption that we were going to rely on a coordinated entry process.
Well, that throws a whole new wrinkle into our conversation. I did not know when I had the meeting with the providers that there was an MOU out there with the county, or I would have also included them, and nobody made me aware of that.
So based on that, I think we have to have another conversation.
Yeah, that's right.
We're working on a contract right now. Developing that contract fell on us at the county. Kathleen has been working with the city and the City of Spokane Valley, and trying to implement the best we can without really having the depth of the city's input, and utilizing CMIS coordinated entry that goes way back to 2019, and looking at what was being proposed at that point is an increase or a step up in terms of moving up from low barrier to a medium barrier. So I think that's a worthwhile discussion. I think certainly we need to have that discussion. I think it's something that should be put in our next 5-year plan as we rewrite that.
Well, the providers, though, in that same meeting, we're concerned that there's even a medium barrier transitional shelter being opened using HaHa funds, and they much rather would have seen more capacity in low barrier, because there's a huge need in that population for low barrier alternatives. And so I really feel like we all need to jump back on a call together, and I will facilitate getting that on the calendars right away.
Yeah, and I would just suggest, obviously, Tim, quite a few things have changed since 2019, but yeah, I think, making sure we're all on the same page would be the best way to do it.
Yeah.
I'll facilitate a call with the same everybody and include both. Ariel, would it be you from the Valley?
It would, thank you.
And was your assumption, Ariel, too? I know you forwarded me an email last week, but your assumption in our previous conversations is that coordinated assessment from the Valley's perspective would be used as well?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I think the thing that we have to, I'm just going to throw this out here, is that any usage of HaHa funds need to adhere to our 5-year plan. And that is, you can find that in RCW 43.185C. And nowhere in our plan right now do we speak to the need of having medium to high barrier projects. That doesn't mean we can't get there. I think we can get there. And I think any of us who have worked in direct services would acknowledge, as with the folks that we work with and we're in service to, that having a clean and sober, or however you want to define that, project or a number of different projects is necessary. There's a need for that, but we just have to follow that process.
Okay, I will set that up as soon as possible, and I appreciate that, and that's why we have these meetings with this very diverse board, so that we're making sure if we're having a side meeting, we're not missing somebody. I appreciate it.
Thanks. Can I chime in real quick? This is Sharon. I'm sorry I can't be on camera, but I will say historically, from a coordinated entry standpoint, we have had programs connected to that that had their own unique requirements. So it hasn't, while the model is absolutely housing first, and that's HUD's, standard, we do fine tune how we screen based upon what folks are requiring at their program site. So I think there's some flexibility where you can use coordinate. I think it absolutely needs to be a detailed conversation with TSA, so there's clear understanding of what that means to try to pair those two systems. But it is possible. And I think, as Ariel mentioned with the connection to the 5-year plan, I think it's pretty critical from a crisis response system that we link these things together in a way that works.
I agree. I was just trying not to, with a lot of different things going on, I thought we had a temporary solution on that, and we could have the larger conversation, which goes kind of, so I will reconvene that group, and you will all hear more about it, and I will do it as soon as possible so that we don't find ourselves in violation of the 5-year plan or the HAHA funds. And okay, I'm getting messages. And TSA was not able to attend our meeting, but we'll make sure the next one. But we've got to get that on the balance pretty quick. So I appreciate everybody's input and time, and that was valuable. But that does go to my last agenda item on G, under 4G. And just if anybody's worried, we're fine on time on my agenda that I built, so we're not screwing up yet. Is business community coordination. Now, there are a couple business groups out there. I think Chud Wendell's got a commercial properties group that is out there. And also Washington Trust Bank. They've hired Chris Patterson, and they're working on their own funding. And I know that Avista started a foundation, Adenovia Foundation. They've released some funds for programs. But there's also the regional governance group, which is elected officials countywide, the ones that really came up with the Way Out shelter. Then there's the CHHS board that controls certain funding at the city level. There's the county board, and then there's elected officials that are making decisions in isolation as well. And then there's the COC board. So our main goal, Eric and I have talked about this multiple times. I had a conversation with Washington Trust Bank today. The 5-year plan, like we just said, okay, well, these things should be, if we're using any funding, they should be controlled by the 5-year plan, but not everybody's following the 5-year plan, because I don't think there's been enough coordination and acceptance of a community-wide plan, and we've got to get there. And I think Eric and I will start that dialogue. Part of that's going to be a January retreat that, due to the NOFI, didn't get something out in the last month like I promised, but I will get out a poll of some sort in order to get a calendar date on there. But part of this needs to be a large, so that if decisions are being made, we're not making shelter decisions funded with city general fund and then ARP dollars over on one side that don't match up with what our community plan is. So it's got to be a concerted effort by our group to help, and we really need somebody neutral so that it's not like the COC is trying to get everybody in a room and run it, or can't be the CHHS board, and it can't be the business community. I know Dale found himself in a meeting last Thursday where he was felt, Dale, correct me if I'm wrong, but it wasn't a comfortable meeting where the COC, you as an officer of the COC and as somebody formerly without a house, felt fairly attacked in the meeting. And we need to get to the point where we're all coordinating and communicating on a consistent basis and have at least agreement on 80% of things so we can all move in the same direction, because it's not working when it's as a system, it's not working right now.
You're correct.
And the people have okay.
And I think, I think that one of the things to follow up on that, I think, like one of our requirements is that we have formerly homeless individuals participate in our planning, and encouraging, the business representatives and leaders to also maybe, have some feedback loop, because I think that's where I really felt a little bit off in that meeting, is they do plan in different ways. So, but getting them all on the same, us working together is really critical.
I think it's really critical, and I just think that that previous conversation on the way out shelter pointed that out pretty clearly. Both way out conversations that I've had in the last week. Does anybody else want to weigh in on that? Eric, maybe from your perspective, from your fun, confusing chart that showed the confusion? Oh.
Just trying to get the mute button to work. Well, yes. So I think, there's a couple of different, aspects here. I guess, you want just more specifically to the business community piece. Yes. So I think we certainly have, a couple of different, groups, and like Garrett Jones from the, our Parks and Rec, really is, helping kind of, shepherd some of the, the downtown kind of, pieces, together, not just as it relates to, the human services piece, but just, in an overall sense. And so there's certainly areas there that we can leverage. I am in agreement, though. I think we, as much as possible, we need to find out how to take, it from a negative conversation to a positive conversation, and look at problem solving, because that's where we're going to get, I think the best energy and the best outcomes. So, I mean, it's certainly something that I can talk about internally and see, what we might be able to, help facilitate or otherwise, if that would be the request.
Thanks, Eric. Did anybody else have anything on the coordination larger piece that they wanted to add in? There are some chats about other groups. The Association of Realtors has a new group going together stronger. I think that's more, they want more single family homes oriented, but okay, we'll keep everybody posted, and we'll invite you all to participate as well as we move forward with these conversations. Is Arian on yet?
I don't see her.
I don't know on the, well, so Eric, do you want to give the update on the YHDP and where we're at?
Yes, I can, or Kirsten, would you like to?
Sure, I can.
Thank you, Kirsten.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think most of you are receiving the weekly updates, but in case you missed this little section of it, Matt Davis is going to do some seasonal temp work for us to help us get through kind of the initial stages of this until we get more staff on board. He's excited to be working on it. It's kind of his baby. So that's been a good partnership there. So we've completed the first 5 weeks of the cohort, the national cohort webinars that have been happening weekly. And then we're starting to move into different, just organizing and mobilizing our local groups. So we're on track. I know that for some of our, team that's working on this, I think there's still some anxiety about we're behind the 8 ball and we're not where we should be. At the same time, we continually get perspective from our technical assistant folks that know this work inside and out, that we're fine. We're not behind. We have a lot of great things in place. But I think anytime you're high performing and you kind of, you know, it feels like you're lowering the bar when in actuality you're not across the board. It feels like it is because you're not doing the same maybe frequency or level of activity that you're used to. So so things are on track. Matt and I are setting up weekly meetings to keep in touch, and then I've been attending as many of the YHDP webinars and things like that. And folks have been plugging in from the different sectors, education, you know, the figuring out what we can, how we can incorporate our youth advisory board and different ideas and things like that. So the first year, or either the first year or 2 years, I can't remember, is about planning. It's not as much about, you know, activities, but so far we're on track. We've had good participation, and we keep kind of just adding more people to the mix as we need to. So that's as much as I have an update. If anybody else that also attends those, you're welcome to chime in.
I just think Cecily moved on in her role as the ACI coordinator, but laid a really good groundwork for the YHDP work. And then Julius, I think you're on this call somewhere.
Yes.
And Julius, we should congratulate you.
I was gonna mention it, but I was like, I don't know if it's public knowledge yet.
He changed his email address, so I feel like we can. So congratulations, Julius, as the new ACI coordinator.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes.
Today is day one, so.
And I don't know how that happened so fast when Cecily left and you were able to switch over, but it's really good news for the youth system that we have somebody with such great experience jumping right in and filling Cecily's very large shoes. So thank you, Julius, and I'm really excited to continue to work with you on a different level.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah, it's just great news all the way around with the YHDP grant. Thank you, Kirsten, for keeping that moving along. Are there any questions on the YHDP grant? Right, Eric, do you want to maybe share your screen and talk about the winter plan?
Sure. So, and let me know if you can all see the PowerPoint roadmap.
Yep.
Okay. So the things in yellow are kind of, you know, newer, have been updated, you know, just, you know, so to save your time in reading. Certainly we've been a little bit late, you know, it's taken a lot of staff horsepower, obviously, on the HUD-NOFO process. You know, a lot of behind the scenes work, you know, in addition to the people we've mentioned previously. I also want to kind of call out Margaret Hinson, you know, who's, you know, normally our COVID project manager, that swapped over and did scoring and did a lot of the, you know, the support and program management work for this process as well. Daniel and Teague from the CMIS team, you know, we're in, you know, fighting every day in terms of helping improve those products. So there's a lot of staff, you know, that generated into this. That in some ways it delayed a little bit, you know, the time that we were spending on what else do we need to look at in terms of the winter plan. And so we are at those two bottom points that we're noting there in yellow, which we still see an overall weakness, you know, as we look at the numbers in terms of, you know, both, you know, the family spaces as well as women. Just as we, you know, we're still blessed with having some temperate weather out there, but certainly we know it can change pretty quickly. And we have, you know, been kind of made aware, and we owe Tim some time at the county side to discuss what they're looking at, because they're also looking at this in terms of, you know, what they're trying to expand, I think, with VOA and families in terms of increasing spaces there. So we're looking at how we potentially can write into that or help fund that, as well as maybe add to it. And, you know, we look to kind of get back into that work here, you know, over this next week, as in parallel, Katie and the team continues to do the application and the narratives and all the other pieces that we have to get the HUD-NOFO application done and ready for, you know, that posting and review. Then the rest of us will kind of swap over and look at what we need to still put out on the street as it relates to this. So we still have some work to do. And we'll look to do that. The way out shelter will open, and again, I think it certainly still it is part of that conversation we need to have. I think the transitional space does open up some opportunities in terms of progression, for those in the system, as well as it, it's impossible to predict what, but if obviously people transition or go into that transition housing from other shelters, then that can obviously open up some low barrier spaces as that happens. The other part, just as I think we've finalized, or working on finalizing the part with VOA as it relates to the young adult shelter, is really, I mean, there are some construction aspects of that, that are being looked at. It's in kind of the architecture, kind of design planning stage. So, I just wanted to make sure that people start understanding that is a spring thing as it relates to kind of, getting construction done versus something that might be available sooner. So those are kind of the three updates I have, and then I'm happy to answer any questions or fill in any blanks.
Just speak up since I can't see everybody.
Okay, hearing none, like I said, as we kind of have that better picture in terms of what we see in terms of, additional kind of contingency capability, for, those cold weather periods. And I would also say we are looking at everything from communication at the street level, the dashboard portal type capability, so that, more people have access to, to what's kind of potentially out there, knowing that it will never be real time, right? It's just not a capability that we can really generate well at the provider level for a number of reasons. And then we're also looking at the transportation aspect of it, so we can figure out, if there's anything else that we need to do that helps get someone to a point of engagement to an available space. So those are the areas we're looking at, and I look forward to those ongoing conversations.
Thank you, Eric. I appreciate the roadmaps that you've been producing as well on each of these issues as we work forward. They're very helpful to me as a visual learner. Okay, with that, with no questions, give it another 15 seconds if anybody has any questions. Okay, and I actually just, do we have any updates on the young adult shelter?
Still pretty much waiting for the contract, but I keep hearing rumors it's getting closer and closer from the city. As soon as we get that contract for the capital, we'll be able to start construction, hopefully December at the very latest. Be nice to start it as soon as possible, but that's the final piece there we're waiting on.
Okay.
So, can I chime in there, just because I know a little bit, probably just enough to be dangerous. All of that has to go, once the contracts are signed, all of it has to go out to RFP. So December's probably not realistic. Sorry.
I'm always an optimist.
Yeah, well, the housing authority is providing development services to BOA to help them out on this project. And so I'm just going to say December is probably not realistic.
So yeah. Springtime, opening in springtime realistic?
I don't know. We'll see once the contract's signed. We'll give you a new timeline.
I'll chime in as well. It sounds like the architect still has some work to do in order for it to go to RFP, and that seems to be, from the discussion I had with George, that's another probably 4 to 5 weeks of work that the architect needs to do. So that's what George and I talked about yesterday. So yes, I would agree that December seems
Poor Bridget.
not realistic.
Huh.
Well,
thanks for the update.
Well, and that's honestly what sometimes we can't necessarily give the best or the good news, but we at least owe you the updates as we see them. So we'll continue to try to work on things as aggressively as we can.
Well, I'll still stay optimistic.
Good.
We wish for the best, hope for the best, but no, it's probably not going to happen.
Thanks, Bridget. Thank you, Kirsten and Eric, for being honest, but giving us the update as well. And the final one is we should just, there's the county has applied, I think, for 3 million. There's ARP home dollars available, but they're not as restrictive as regular home dollars. So they can be used also for homeless services and housing. But the county, I think, is in line. Tim, correct me if I'm wrong. I think it's about 3 million allocation to the county. The city allocation is 4.7 million. I know the city and the county are working together on creating the plan for that, but that'll be heavily involved with the low-income housing community helping with that planning, but also the COC informing what that plan looks like. So we should just keep that on our radar and thank the city and the county for applying for those dollars because that's more unexpected funding into the system. So we appreciate that.
Yeah, Ben, I just want to add, we just had our first meeting with the city. We're going to have weekly meetings on our planning approach. But for the rest of the board members, this is new funding. And the first component is required us and the city to do an allocation plan that's pretty heavy in citizen participation. So we're going to be consulting with the Continuum of Care, public housing, the housing providers, and the homeless providers. The first thing we're going to do as a work group is put together a timeline and put some elements within that timeline and develop a presentation that we can take to everyone and present the program. This is new, but I want to go back to the regular home program and its propensity to have landmines. This program is very similar. It's very contrary to the regular home program in that the original home program was never intended to house homeless populations. So this is an anomaly, and it's an attempt to serve homeless populations. But nonetheless, there are unexpected landmines in this particular program. So we're going to do our best to identify those with the allowable activities and present, I think, a pretty good synopsis of what's available and what the risks are in taking these dollars. So that's our update at this point, Ben. Thanks for the opportunity.
Absolutely. Thank you, Tim. And thank you for all your work on this and all the other items. We appreciate it. Well, this is funny. It's 4:32. I set the meeting for a half an hour later because the agenda was jam-packed. And now I've gotten through the agenda. I'm never opposed to found time, but now is your time. If there was something we should have been talking about that you thought was going to be discussed today, or that you anticipated being discussed that I haven't brought up, now is the time to let me know and have that discussion.
Ben, if I could make a Built for Zero announcement, I would appreciate a
You
minute.
bet, Morgan.
Great. We have recently been able to launch our centralized diversion fund, which is focused on veterans and singles, and have about $100,000 available within that fund. There are trainings, and I will drop a link in the description that providers can go through next week. It is on the 4th and 5th. And once you go through that training, you are able to access those funds through your own agency rather than moving to another agency. So I just wanted to get the word out there if you haven't heard. Again, that is for singles over the age of 25 and veterans.
Thank you, Morgan. And next month, we'll start back with, I want to put ACI updates and Built for Zero updates on the monthly agendas. And Morgan and Julius, just with the NOFA, I didn't put that on this month, but we'll go back to making sure you're on the agenda every month. Okay, everybody.
Thank you.
In the chat is the forms, .office.com for the Central Diversion Fund training. Okay, anybody else? I really appreciate everybody's time and appreciate all the thoughtful discussion on the NOFA. And I'm just going to finish by saying thank you to Eric Finch, because I think he really stepped in when he didn't need to. And thank you, Kirsten. I appreciate both of you immensely. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. Thanks.
Just let us know how to
Thanks,
compare.
man. Thanks, Eric. See you later.